Hey everybody, this is Jason Hodge here. I'm doing a special request from a good friend of mine, Kiwi. Hey Kiwi. And I am going over one of the recipes that I posted to Facebook, and I've gotten a lot of feedback on it. Matter of fact, and it's kind of funny because we're sitting here actually right now talking, in chat mode on Facebook, and she's like, "Hey, post that recipe, right?" And I'm a little afraid of Kiwi when she gets like that, so I'm gonna go ahead and just speak this recipe out. Now, here's one of the funniest things. Now, I've written for over 5 years for a couple of sites where recipes was one of the things, but for some reason, there's this disconnect when it comes to actually writing the recipe and as opposed to just sitting here and talking about it. Now, I can interact around a recipe or around a dish or food or whatever all day long, but to sit down and actually measure the stuff out, because see, I'm not a measurer when I cook. I throw the things in there, I get in there, do my business, and boom, right? And I just kind of flow with it. So when it comes down to, locking everything into that box of, okay, 2 teaspoons of this and five, tablespoons of that and a cup of this, that's where it gets a little interesting for me. So anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and give you this recipe, and it is the brown rice tortilla wraps. Now, some of the things in there may sound a little interesting, but let me go ahead and read it anyway, or tell you anyway. Okay, so the first thing is that brown rice tortillas, we usually get them from Trader Joe's, and the coconut oil. We put coconut oil into a skillet and then crisp up the brown rice tortillas and then roll them almost like a cannoli, right? From there, we take black rice that has been blossomed black rice. It's really actually very good. And the way that we blossom our rice is we will ferment them for 2 to 3 days, almost like if we were making injera, right? Which is the Ethiopian flatbread that is used as the plate when you eat the food, right? So we do the same process to the rice, and what that does, it does a number of things. It does change the texture and the flavor, gives it a certain level of sourness to it, which is great when you're not working with cheese, because we don't put cheese in our stuff, right? It also gets rid of the phytic acid, which binds to nutrients inside of your intestines and actually pulls out nutrients from your food and from your system, which is not really good because you actually want to get nourished from the food that you eat as opposed to it working against you and just tasting real good, right? So we ferment our grains in order to get rid of the phytic acid, and then we cook it or prep it or whatever we're going to do with it. So now with the black rice, we did that, and went ahead and cooked up a whole pot of it, peppers, onions, the whole deal, right? And popped it in the fridge, let it kind of sit there, and then when we were ready to do the actual wraps, or the tortillas or burritos, whatever you want to call them, we use that as the bottom layer, which helped to soften the tortilla a little. And then we put in the broccoli that I saute it in onions and oil, and I drizzle it with toasted sesame seed oil, right? Himalayan pink salt on top of it, kind of toss it around. And I let it stay somewhat crisp, not too crisp to where it's just downright crunchy, but not too soft to where it's mushy. It's just right in there to where it still has that nice, vibrant, bright green color. I layer that in there, and then I layer in some creminis, which are like small portobello mushrooms, right? I do an irregular chop. I don't do a uniform chop on those, mainly because I want the textural layers, the elements of the texture to come through. And so I don't want everything to cook up uniformly when it comes to that, because when you think about it, when you are looking for a meaty texture, meat has these different striations, these different textures in them, different sizes and all that cook up slightly different, and so then you get that mouthfeel from them, right? So I do the same thing with the creminis, is I chop them irregular, and then when I toss them into the skillet with the red onions and the coconut oil and the Himalayan salt, dill weed, I cook that down, and then a little chipotle powder, right? I cook that down, and then they release those beautiful liquids, right? They have a very earthy, savory flavor to them. And once they cook down to a certain point to where they no longer have the mushroom texture to where it's kind of, rubbery, but it has more of a meaty texture, then I put those aside, just let them sit. And then I finish off with uh, kimchi. This one we added kimchi, and we were using it kind of like how you would use sauerkraut, right? Just to get that nice little sourness to it, but also to enhance the bioactivity of the food, so that the wrap itself, the dish, was something that the body was able to digest much better. We, with the kimchi, help to reestablish the nice, digestive enzymes and the beneficial bacteria, the beneficial microorganisms for the digestive tract, right? So there's a rhyme to the reason there. There's more to it than just the flavor. The flavor was off the literal chain, okay? The flavor was off the chain, no doubt about it. But I don't believe in creating pretty poison. So there was a reason for all of those elements going together that stretched, beyond the flavor. So anyway, so that's it in a nutshell. Kiwi, that's it in a nutshell. Brown rice tortillas, toasted up in coconut oil. The black rice, the blossom black rice, spread, on there, almost like you would do a tamale. And then the broccoli, the sautéed sesame broccoli, right? The mushrooms, and then the kimchi that was chopped, finely chopped, on the top of that. And was it good? Oh, yeah, very good and very healthy. So there it is. That's the recipe. And thank you for pushing me in this direction, Kiwi. I did this only for you and everybody else, everybody else who sees this video. But there you have it. That is how I did that dish.